Mount Holyoke, the first women's college in the United States, and Mary Lyon, its founder. How did both impact women's colleges, access, and equality issues today? This paper will focus on Mount Holyoke, the first women's college in the United States, and how its foundational roots paved the road for the existence of women's colleges today. Mount Holyoke's founder, Mary Lyon, in addition to staff, students, and graduates, influenced current knowledge and practices used today in colleges across the world. This paper will attempt to answer or present literature review findings for the following questions. How did Mount Holyoke represent, change, or spearhead perceptions of women's social and professional trends? Did Mount Holyoke experience gender and equality issues still present today? Did Mount Holyoke inspire the feminist movement in respect to social and political activism? And how likely are women's colleges to exist in the future? Female academies for primary education started in the late 1700s. Societal views did not support female education beyond the primary education at academies. It would be a fight to break this glass ceiling. Gifted with a marvelous intellect and evangelical convictions, Mary Lyon opened Mount Holyoke Seminary to the tune of 80 students. Mary Lyon was a catalyst for the creation of other future women's colleges and coeducational institutions. Mary Lyon had three main objectives: for women to have the same education as men, to support Christianity conversion and prophecy, and to allow women of modest means the same education as their higher income peers. In addition, and due to her strong evangelical background, she implemented an evangelical Christianity foundation, acclamation, and training in her new school, including foreign missionary experiences. Mount Holyoke's original buildings included a library, lecture rooms, gymnasium, chemical laboratory, art gallery, a large apartment with adjacent dorm rooms, common rooms, a domestic hall for cooking, and a laundry room. Faculty, a physician, and students lived, learned, worked, and mingled together as a family in a harmonious Christian home to mold moral character and develop students' minds. School life included domestic duties, concerts, recreational activities, extensive Bible study, revivals, class lectures, studying, exercise, and meditation. In the first year, Mount Holyoke's tuition, room, and board was $64 annually. The fees were increased to $175 annually, but after 1 year, there was aid for students with limited means. Mount Holyoke would differentiate itself with its affordable tuition to dissolve class distinctions and offer education to all by instituting a requirement of domestic work instead of paid help. Mary Lyon founded Mount Holyoke in Christian principles and a demanding course of study rarely available to women at this time. Students were selected for admission based on maturity of character and age, in addition to success in a comprehensive pre-college education, since it offered no remedial or preparatory courses. From 1836 to 1860, the Seven Sisters, Barnard, Smith, Mount Holyoke, Vassar, Bryn Mawr, Wellesley, and Radcliffe, all independent private colleges, were founded with academic programs similar to men's Ivy League schools, with women leaders and their own financial resources. Many of the first-generation graduates of the women colleges continued the pioneering initiative by serving as professors, deans, and administrators at both women's colleges and later co-ed institutions. By 1861, Mount Holyoke offered curriculum culminating in the first four-year degree offered by a women's college. Later, in 1888, Mount Holyoke Female Seminary received a collegiate charter, becoming Mount Holyoke College, that continues to exist as a single-sex, women's admired liberal arts college. Women's education started in the post-revolutionary period with public town schools' growth and private seminaries. Industrialization changed women's education into an economic movement for job growth outside the home. America had become a hotbed of rights discussions as feminist ideas gave greater weight to the education of women. The so-called Republican motherhood was born, and it echoed the traditional gender role. This movement influenced new thinking about women's capabilities, which in turn expanded educational opportunities. This path would lead to new goals for women, equal education rates for women, and eventually independence, autonomy, and economic security with career placement. The increase in more printed literature impacted society's desire to further education and expand the educational network, but there were not enough teachers to support the increasing demand of schools. The need for more formal training in academies rose, in addition to the need to reform educational curriculum in academies to improve higher quality teaching graduates. Industrial, scientific, and technological advances introduced machinery similar to the early washing machine, reducing the amount of time women spent on domestic duties and allowed them to focus on educational aspirations for future careers. Much like today, scientific and technology innovations changes courses offered by higher education institutions and provides new career paths. College retention was an issue in the early 19th century as it is today. Emily Dickinson attended Mount Holyoke in the academic year of 1847. In a letter to her friend Abia Root on November 6, 1847, Emily wrote that only 1/3 of Mount Holyoke students returned each year and only 1 in 10 graduated. The reasons included poor health, insufficient funds, marriage, homesickness, and a lack of interest. Although persistence and graduation rates are much better than in 1848, one specific reason for stopout, insufficient funds, remains a prominent issue in current colleges. Obstacles to college access seen in the 19th century is similar to obstacles to college access today. In the early 19th century, many families did not have money to send their girls to primary academies. In addition, the public schools may not have prepared them for college-level academics. Parental support and encouragement was not always present. Although Mary Lyon made appropriations available in the second year of school for low-income women, it was not a full scholarship. Therefore, college access continued to be unattainable to some lower-income women. This is comparable to current college access, affordability, poor college preparation, and lack of support and encouragement from marginalized families and low-income families. Mary Lyon's mandatory domestic work requirement resulted in several positive outcomes. The cooperative domestic system to the literary institution was a measure of economy. It reduced fees to attract women of modest means, and students from all socioeconomic classes were treated equally, all sharing in the workload. Mary Lyon implemented a diversity and inclusion element early on at Mount Holyoke to level out the socioeconomic classes. Rich or poor, everyone shared in the domestic duties. This would have been a considerable marketing feature to attract students to a high-class institution with lower tuition and board fees. Mary Lyon had the foresight to enable college access to all, an initiative that continues to remain a college access goal today. Mary Lyon was extremely successful in the missionary initiative with 178 students from 1837 to 1887 that traveled internationally as missionaries. The school staff, students, and community collaborated to outfit a student traveling to a foreign land with supplies. As one can imagine, traveling to foreign countries, in addition to bringing supplies, had to be a fantastic logistical feat for Mary Lyon, which further defines her strength and ability as a leader of women. Many of the items were embroidered with Mount Holyoke's name. In addition, letters were sent between the students and the missionaries to maintain the student missionaries' connection to Mount Holyoke, support, and inspiration for future missionaries. In doing this, Mary Lyon had the foresight to build loyalty, but this may have paved the way for modern-day marketing and promotion of colleges. The letters from the missionaries to the Mount Holyoke students were read at the weekly missionary meetings. Their letters piqued the curiosity of the students. Mount Holyoke students continually requested more letters as they discovered foreign countries and cultures. Mary Lyon had immersed a diversity and inclusion element from a distance for those students back home. For the missionaries, the expeditions opened a new world of cultural diversity, languages, and an enlightened worldview. Student missionaries often stayed for long-term careers, becoming spokeswomen for the poor. Mary Lyon imparted a foundation of civic duty and evangelical mission in the school. The missionary experience in some degree mirrors the connection to practicums or field experience today. Lyon must have had the foresight and belief that firsthand practical experience as currently practiced in colleges as field experience or practicums would cement the commitment of their education and experience into future work. Mount Holyoke foreign missionary work occurred during a period when it was exceptional for women to travel to foreign countries, let alone become missionaries. The missionary work provided a benefit not easily attained by women. They could travel to foreign countries without charge and travel to places considered inappropriate for women to travel. All the Mount Holyoke female faculty, students, and missionaries all played a role in furthering 19th century colonialism, providing a political activist experience. Mary Lyon pushed the students out of their safe zone, experiencing life abroad as pioneers and women activists, advancing women's education and rights to fight for better treatment of women abroad. Society's view of women as the lower species only useful for domestic work and producing offspring influenced the support for women's colleges. Male college faculty frowned upon the creation of women's colleges. Some doctors opined that education for women caused diseases of the nervous system, which could result in harm to new babies. Mary Lyon's initiatives in founding Mount Holyoke set women graduates apart from non-graduates and defined them as intellectuals in a time when society placed more value on their fertility than career pursuits. Although gender inequality at colleges remain a viable issue, conditions have positively changed since the early 1800s, only through immense efforts of women like Mary Lyon. During the 19th century, as today, women earned lower salaries than their male counterparts, but also had limited career opportunities. Holyoke graduates, like other educated women, confronted the double standard that encouraged women to obtain a higher education, but restricted their opportunities to the home and classroom. Society continues to pay women less than men in equivalent positions. Even though educated women gained advantages from early women colleges that continued through today, society remains inequitable in graduate salaries and opportunities. Women's colleges have continued to exist for almost 2 centuries. Today, institutions that once only allowed male enrollment now admit women. Even with coeducational institutions, some women's colleges remain intact. However, they must compete for federal funding and convince stakeholders and governments of their worth. Women's colleges are now faced with heavy competition from coeducational institutions. As of 2016, there were approximately 10.5 million women attending college. Since the original founding of Mount Holyoke, 74 more all-female colleges originated in the U.S. and Canada. A good number of women's colleges remain viable and strong single-sex institutions. Further research and review of the records of women's colleges, especially the oldest colleges, may help to inform an understanding of women's student populations at that time by looking at gender inequalities, race, religion, ethnic background, and socioeconomic class. The archives of personal letters written by early women college participants may inform a better understanding of the women's colleges and processes, much more than the college annual reports and other published college documents at that time. For researchers to reconstruct history, perform qualitative studies and findings on early women's colleges, the college archivist must provide these documents to aid in a complete picture of early women's colleges. The increase in opportunities for women to attend college was exactly the result Mary Lyon imagined and planned when she founded Mount Holyoke. Due to Mary Lyon's efforts, women today retain self-confidence in their intellectual abilities, a willingness to pioneer and forge new pathways. The women who dedicated their lives to higher education in the 1800s and early 1900s were instrumental in building foundations for today's college leaders. The women's college movement paves the way for the entry of women in modern high-tech society, plays a leading role in the intellectual potential of society, and the preservation of cultural identity. Mary Lyon's struggle to educate women in the early 19th century certainly increased the opportunities for women accumulated over almost 2 centuries. Gender inequality exists in colleges today like it did in the 19th century, but not to the same extent. Then as now, the value of higher education in developing a woman's underrated intellectual powers is a regular focus of controversy and continues to speak to urgent questions of the troubled feminist present. Current societal views are ever-changing with the goal for increased gender equity, but there is continued work to reach a fair balance. The early women's college initiative profoundly and positively impacted future feminist movements. Without Mary Lyon and other pioneers, women might still be 100 years behind the equity movement and political activism for women's rights and college access. Here are some fun pictures at early days at Mount Holyoke, 1892. There's some students in a seminary and a picture of the class of 1871. Here's a picture of the Ivy Day ceremony in 1902, and in 1906, the traditional chafing dish party. Here's a picture in 1903 of students practicing climbing out of a dormitory window during a fire drill, and a picture of 1899 basketball team and an 1884 Mount Holyoke baseball team. This is an early picture of Mount Holyoke Female Seminary. The next 2 pages are references for the original paper.